Welcome to day number 1 of our lower body self-massage course. We are going to start almost every single day at the floor, and we're going to be working on our feet first and working our way up. So the first thing that you're going to need is a ball. What I've got here is what's called a yoga tune-up ball or a tune-up fitness ball. It doesn't really matter the specific kind of ball, but it should be around the size of a tennis ball or a baseball, and usually softer than a baseball, harder than a tennis ball. So this is something like a lacrosse ball. So what we're going to do today is we're going to spend time with the ball on the floor, on the bottom of our feet. So I want you to just place it down in between your feet, in front of your chair, and you are going to get it right in the middle of the bottom of one of your feet, and you're going to start rolling front to back. So as you're rolling front to back, what I want you to note is that you shouldn't be pushing the ball too hard into your heel, as in your actual heel bone. One of the reasons being is that you can actually have some heel spurs in there. A lot of people have heel spurs that aren't painful, but if you poke on them really aggressively over and over again, they can become painful. So a heel spur usually is right on the very bottom of your heel bone and a little bit in the front of that. So it's okay to roll right up to the edge of it, but I don't want you putting the ball right on the very bottom of your heel, just in case you have a heel spur, even if you don't know you have it, because it might make it a little more sore for you. So for today, we're just going to roll straight front to back, and then we're going to tilt our knee in a little bit so we get the inside of the arch of our foot, and then we're going to let our knee fall to the outside and get a little more towards the outside of our foot. Good. So let's switch over to the other side. You're going to do the same thing. Try to let your foot relax as much as you can, meaning your toes shouldn't be splayed and tense. You should have your toes relaxed, letting them fall. They'll curl around the ball, whatever it is that you're using. And you're just going to go straight front to back. Again, try to avoid going right into the very bottom of your heel. Even though for some people it might feel pretty good, I'd prefer that you don't put a lot of pressure in there. And then you can go all the way out to the ball of your foot as well, right underneath the knuckles of your toes. There's a lot of people could use a little more massage underneath that area. Then we're going to tilt our foot in a little bit so we get towards the inside of the arch of our foot, which, just so you know, a lot of people, it's going to be a little more tender towards the arch of their foot, especially right in the middle of their arch. There's a little bone called your navicular bone in there. It can be a little bit uncomfortable. And then we're going to do the same thing the other way. Going to let our knee fall towards the outside. And then we're just going to do the outside of our foot. So out of all the things that we do, most people will actually find this is probably the number one thing that they enjoy out of this entire course, is rolling the bottom of their feet. So any of the movements that I show you, feel free to use them pretty well anytime that you want throughout the day. After you spend a long time on your feet, a lot of people find that spending 2 or 3 minutes using a ball and rolling out the bottom of their feet really feels nice and gives them a little bit of relief. So feel free to do this anytime you want. For now, let's move on. So the next thing that we're going to do, you are going to need your rolling pin for. So we've talked about needing either a massage stick or a tiger tail or a rolling pin. So whatever it is that you've got, grab that right now because we're going to use it. So what I've got here is called a tiger tail. The only real thing that needs to happen is that you can have a handle you can hold onto in the middle that actually rolls. So this is a tiger tail. So what we're going to do for today is we're going to have it kind of with both of our palms up, and we're going to be leaning forward, and we're going to be rolling the back of our lower leg. So for today, we're just going to go straight up and down in the middle. What I don't want you to do is to get too far down towards the back of your heel on your Achilles tendon. I want you to focus from about a third of the way from the floor up. So you're going to be spending your time pushing into this muscle primarily. So we're probably going to do about 10, 20, sometimes up to 30 just kind of rolls front to back. And if you want to push a little bit harder, you can always just bend your foot underneath you so that you can put a little more weight into it. And if you want to go a little easier, you can move forward so that you're just using fingertip pressure. So I'm going to go straight up and down. And we're going to do 20 to 30 rolls straight top to bottom. Good. I've got about 20 of them in there. And we're just going to take a short break, and we're going to switch sides. So another way that you can do this, and some people find it a little bit easier, is actually if you're standing up and then put the foot that you're massaging, put the calf you're massaging up on a chair. So you can stand with one foot on the ground, one foot up on a chair. It just allows you to not have to bend over quite as far, but it does require more balance. So a lot of people, when the balance is required, it makes it a little harder to relax the muscles enough that they can dig in. So we're going to do it seated. You're welcome to do it standing up with a foot on the chair. So let's switch right over to the other side, and we're going to do 20 to 30 reps on this side as well, where we're just digging into the back of the calf a little bit. I've got about 20 repetitions in there, and then let's relax a little. For our next exercise, you don't need any implement. You don't need a tiger tail, a rolling pin, you don't need a ball. All you need is your hands. That's because we're going to be working on our kneecaps. So one of the things that can make knees feel pretty tight a lot of the time is actually kneecaps that are really stiff. So normally your kneecaps are actually supposed to float quite a bit. They're one of the only bones in our bodies that isn't directly attached to another bone, meaning it actually is supposed to float. One of the only other ones is actually our Adam's apple up here. So this is meant to float around quite a bit, and it's within the tendon of the muscle of our thighs called your quads, the one in the front of your thighs. So it's supposed to move. It's supposed to move top to bottom and side to side and all over the place. And if it doesn't, it tends to be when our knees stiffen up a little bit. And as we age, it tends to be that it loses a little bit of its mobility as well. So all we're going to do is we're going to try to restore a little bit of the mobility of our kneecap. So you can see my kneecap here, kind of the top and bottom and the sides of it. So all we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing about 20 to 30 repetitions where we're just sliding it side to side or top to bottom. You can kind of explore in whatever way you feel is comfortable for you. I would encourage you to just start gentle for today. You can push a little harder in later days. So you're going to scoot towards the front of your chair. You're going to have one leg bent to make sure that you have support and you can push down on it. And the other leg, you're going to want it straight as it can be and completely relaxed. You don't have to be putting a lot of pressure backwards. It just needs to be as straight as you can get it, and trying to let these muscles up here in your thigh relax as much as you can. So once you've done that, the easiest thing to do for most people is just to lean forward, grab onto either side of their kneecap with one hand, or to use their thumbs or their fingers, just to make sure that you can find the edges of your kneecap in through here. So all we're going to do from here is we're going to slide it back and forth, side to side, or you can do it top to bottom. I'm going to do side to side, and we're going to do 30 repetitions of that back and forth. Give that a try right now. So I know this doesn't technically qualify as massage, but it actually is really nice for a lot of the joint capsule and ligaments and tendons and other things in your knees to help them feel a little bit better and feel a little bit looser. It'll make your muscles feel better in the long run. Good, so there's about 30 reps. As you've probably figured out, if you tense your muscles up, your kneecap doesn't go anywhere. If you let everything relax in here, then it'll start to move. So let's switch sides. Let's bend the leg we were just working on, straighten the other side, get towards the edge of our chair into a comfortable position. Find your kneecap, kind of landmark a little bit to make sure you know exactly where it's at. You're just going to be squeezing the sides. So it's not squeezing the big part of your knee. You're going to be sliding forward, and there's a small little part in the front. So try to get everything as relaxed as you can again, and grab onto that kneecap with one or two hands, and we're just going to slide back and forth, side to side, for 30 more reps. Good, so we've got around 30 there. You're also welcome to move it up and down if that feels good for you. We're done with the kneecaps for today. For our next exercise, we are going to need the ball again. So for today, we're just going to use our hands to put pressure into the ball. In the future, if you want to, you can actually use your own body weight, and you can use it against the wall or the floor. What I'm going to show you is just the ability to use your own hands to do it. So we're going to get into the same position that we did for our kneecap, where we were kind of moving our kneecap back and forth side to side. And we're going to have one leg bent and the other leg straight. And all we're going to be doing is we're going to be kind of rolling and exploring top to bottom with the ball, right between the hip bone and the front of our hip and the kneecap, so straight down the middle of our quads. So we have a long muscle here called your rectus femoris. It's part of the quads, and it's typically pretty tight in a lot of people. So some people are going to find that it's entirely fine in a lot of places, and then you're actually going to find it's tight in others, even though it's the same muscle. So it might not be tight the same throughout. So all I want you to do for now is you're actually going to press straight down with your hand, and you're just going to roll top to bottom, straight back and forth like that. So it should be pretty easy. If you don't have any one spot in there that you find, wow, that's really tight, and you really want to work on that, you might just want to keep rolling top to bottom, all the way from just above your kneecap to just below your hip bone. But if you find that you have one spot that feels really tight, so for me, I've got one that's right there, you might actually want to just press straight down into it and roll right back and forth on that guy. So if you have a tight spot, after you kind of explore a little bit with the ball right now, focus on that. If you don't have any one spot that feels particularly tight to you, then just keep rolling top to bottom and do about 10 laps up and down your thigh. And I'm going to do about 20 or 30 kind of quick little pulses on that sore spot. So I've found that spot here, and I'm going to put two-hand pressure on it, and I'm just going to push up and down for 20 or 30 reps. Good. That's about 30 repetitions there. So you can let that relax, take a short break, and we're going to switch sides. So you're going to get over to the other side, and we're going to start and do the exact same thing. We're going to kind of explore top to bottom, see if we find any spots that are particularly tight or particularly sore on you. If you don't have any, then I'd encourage you to just kind of do 10 laps, top to bottom, where you're rolling from the front of your hip down to above your kneecap, preferably not on your kneecap. And if you find a tight spot, we're going to stop on that spot, and we're going to do 20 or 30 little pulses, top to bottom, with two-hand pressure. So I found a little spot here, so I'm going to do that. Good. And there's 30 reps on that one. So our last movement of the day today is going to be probably the hardest one to do, but it's very likely the one that needs it the most for you. So we're going to use the ball, and we're going to use it in the back of our hip. So one of the things that you're going to have to do is essentially be able to sit on a ball, and you're going to have to be able to lean into it. So usually it just means that you're putting it right underneath one of your butt cheeks, and then you're kind of scooting off to that same side. I know that's fairly hard to see, but for most people, they have their tailbone right in the middle, right below the base of their spine, and then they have the point of their hip over here, and there's nothing but meat in between. There's all these different areas in between that are a bunch of different muscle. So for most people, the easiest thing to do is to scoot off to one side of your chair, put the ball just off to the side, and then kind of lean on it, and you're going to have to scoot yourself around a little bit. So for a lot of people, they find even rolling around is hard because it's difficult to support themselves. So if that's you, what I'd encourage you to do is to just essentially let one of your butt cheeks hang off the side, and then just use your own hand to take the ball and just roll it around. So you're just going to be pressing in from the side, not right on the bone, which on me is about here, but backwards from there, right into the back of the hip, in that kind of area. So you're just going to do 20 or 30 little circles where you're pushing around in here, if this is the pressure that you can get. But if you find that you can actually manage to sit and lean onto the ball, I'd encourage you to do the same thing that way. So do 20 to 30 repetitions of that, starting right now. So hip muscles are pretty tough. A lot of you guys are probably noticing that even using your own arm muscle, it's pretty hard to dig in there, which is one of the reasons that we try to sit on it if we can. So we've got about 20 to 30 repetitions on that side. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're just going to switch so that our hip is kind of hanging off the edge here. Then we're just going to take the ball, press in. We're not going to be pressing into bone here or up here. We're going to be down kind of on the outside of our glutes. We're just going to push for 20 or 30 reps with little circles. If you find a little sore spot in there, I'd encourage you to push on that, as long as it's not right on top of a bone. If it's right on top of a bone, it's probably not doing you any good to push on it repeatedly. But if it's in the meaty parts, in the muscly parts, and it's tender, I'd encourage you to give it a little extra pressure. Good. So we've got 20 or 30 repetitions there. And that's it for day number 1. So we've covered a few different areas from the bottom of our feet all the way up to our hips. And each day we're going to do a slightly different variation of it or something entirely new. I look forward to seeing you on day number 2.